Today we're talking about the Batman. So the Batman is a movie that came out this year, and I probably can review it. The Batman is a very long movie. It is 2 hours and 56 minutes long, but the Batman is actually a pretty good movie. So basically, the Batman is about the Riddler and basically his plans, and it's basically a detective movie. Most Batman movies either portray him as a rich elite, or how strong am I? They never really saw Batman as a detective, which is really a shame. Even a movie like The Dark Knight doesn't really show the Batman's skills as a detective. But this movie really shows that Batman is a good detective, obviously. That Batman can be used more in a role that is not, just beat up the bad guys and win as well. This movie proves that Robert Pattinson is not a bad actor. Yep, there's all these people who are saying because Twilight sucks, Robert Pattinson therefore is a bad actor. Even though that's been disproven in a movie like Tenet, The White House, and now this movie, the and especially the most infamous guy who hates Robert Pattinson, John Talks, who has posted stuff about Joe Biden now. Well, I wonder how he thinks of this movie. I bet he probably despises every second of this movie because Robert Pattinson's the Batman. He is actually a pretty good Batman, one of the better Batmans out there. Now, they portrayed him much differently in this movie. That he is a broken man because of his parents' death, and basically that's a very realistic portrayal of Batman. His parents are dead, and you would expect Batman to have some type of trauma on that. And also you have to deal with the Riddler killing people close to him, like Alfred, and killing people, and he's not able to save him. That does have an effect on the Batman. Also, this movie made more than $600 million. I don't know why they put 600. It made like $750 million. It's also one of the most successful Batman movies ever made. The CGI in this movie, you don't really notice. And there was a lot of CGI in this movie, but you don't really notice it. It's one of those rare movies where you don't really notice there's any CGI in this movie. It looks like it's all done without any CGI, but there's a lot of CGI in this movie. This movie also cost around $200 million to make as well, which is the same as a movie like Black Widow, which really makes that movie much worse, because Black Widow is definitely a worse movie than The Batman. And basically, The Batman also exposes one thing: the elites. We all know people don't like the elites. And basically it shows that, the elites get away with a lot of things as well. For example, Al Capone has basically been running Gotham for 20 years, even though he's a horrible person, and a crime lord, but he basically has been running Gotham under his foot, despite being, a criminal and doing horrible things. It really shows us what kind of figures are working around in our world if he's doing the same things here. And also, the cinematography is some of the best cinematography in a DC movie ever made. This movie's cinematography and is on par with a movie like Dune, which came out last year. Yeah, Dune has almost perfect cinematography in the movie, and the Batman does as well. You will find dozens of great shots in the movie as well. You also have other characters like the Catwoman, which is a pretty good portrayal of the character, and of course the Penguin. The Penguin was also pretty good in the movie. It also shows, just like in most of the other Batman movies like Gotham, the Penguin always keeps getting shafted. Kind of like he's the underdog. He's like the underman of undermen, not the underdog, the undermen. He's like the guy who keeps getting the shaft over and over and over again. Hopefully in the sequels, the Penguin gets some sort of bigger role in the movies. Kind of like in the original Batman's. And hopefully characters like the Joker and Mr. Freeze, who are both hinted at in this movie, also get bigger roles in this movie. The performances by all of the characters in the movie are pretty good, and portray the characters pretty good. Some people will say this is not as good as The Dark Knight because of Heath Ledger's performance, and I don't think any character would probably beat his performance, But all of these performances in the movie are pretty good. 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 So overall, The Batman is a very great Batman movie, and it's one of DC's best movies, and definitely is a movie worthy of cinema. Yeah, Martin Scorsese might not think superhero movies are not cinema, but movies like Joker, The Batman, and Snack Side Justice League are basically cinema as their own right. This is basically the best DC movie since Snack Side Justice League. If we don't count that movie, which is technically, that movie, it's the best DC movie since Joker. And Joker was a masterpiece of character writing and character storytelling. And basically, this movie is about Batman's skills as the detective, and Robert Pattinson does a pretty good job as being Batman, as well. And he's definitely one of the better Batman portrayals in the Batman movies. Definitely much better than most of the older Batmans, especially George Clooney's Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman. I can definitely tell you they're better than both of those Batmans. But overall, I think that this movie should just reboot the DC universe. This would be a pretty good idea because the DCEU is already broken as it is, and rebooting it starting with this movie and Joker, I think would be a pretty good idea. But again, they already casted a different person for the Joker. I think what they should do is just scrap the DCEU overall and make a new universe starting with the Batman, because they definitely learned the lesson from the failure of the DCEU. But the sad thing is, they still continue the DCEU for some reason, despite being one of the worst flops for DC. And I think making a new DCEU and just setting up like the Marvel universe would be pretty good. Because you could have the Batman, a new Flash that isn't, doesn't attack people in Hawaii. I'm talking about Ezra Miller. And of course, you'd have a new Superman, or you can just bring back Henry Cavill. He's a pretty good Superman, But you could bring in a new Superman. You can or you can just even connect this with like movies like Joker, and movies like Shazam! Fury of Gods and just abandon the DCEU. But this is supposed to be a completely original movie series. And this is actually supposed to be connected to the DCEU, but they decided to drop it in favor of creating something new and original. So, yes, The Batman is a great DC movie. It is one of the better DC movies ever made. And it's definitely in the top Batman movies of all time. And this is the first, and you have to be reminded this is the first of a new Batman series. This is the first entry and it's already this good. Imagine the sequels. They could be even better, introducing characters like Mr. Freeze, introducing characters like Joker, Scarecrow, and many more Batman villains. You could probably make 4 or 5 Batman movies. One around each Batman villain, the first one being Riddler, the second one being the Joker, or Mr. Freeze. The third one could be the other way around, one about the Penguin, of course, and one about Scarecrow. I think Scarecrow should be in a live-action Batman movie, finally. He's a pretty interesting villain. He was pretty good Batman Arkham Knight, which was a pretty good game. And being an interesting villain being a pretty good villain in that game, I think that he should be the main villain in a Batman movie, kind of like in that game. Because in that game, he was actually a serious threat as well. So overall, Batman is definitely worth the watch. So if you have HBO Max, or you have it on Blu-ray, or if you still have access to get it on feeders, or if you can watch it on HBO, which they had it yesterday, but it definitely is worth watching this movie. So overall, The Batman is another very great movie as well. And this is getting a sequel as well, which is very well deserved that this gets a sequel because of how great this movie was. So yep, that's it about The Batman as well.